Welcome back, everybody. This is Life Coach Labs. I'm your host, Chris Angel. You're joining us in a season, or what we call a lab, on the topic of leadership. And I have flown in at no expense to you listening to this, my friend, Louis Hamner. Hi, Louis.
Hey.
Glad you're here. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Louis, tell us, just so we can be related to like who you are in the world, maybe professionally as well as personally, like give us just a nutshell of what you do in the world.
Yeah. I got into the title insurance business, which is where you go close deals, right? Or close your real estate transactions. I got into that in 2003.
Yeah.
Grew a company from that, and have run, a couple different businesses in that aspect, in that industry. And recently I have sold all of my interest to a national title company, to Fidelity National Title.
Nice.
And I look at it as that how that grew is just because of, that grew. I never felt like I was in the title business.
Yeah.
So I think why I'm here today, not because I'm in the title business, it's
right.
because of how I approached that business.
Yeah. Right.
So
yeah, that's absolutely why I wanted to have this conversation with you, because obviously
nobody cares about title insurance.
Yeah. Yeah. For an audience of life coaches, but I think what, and in the topic of leadership, how you have led yourself and the personal path that you've been on, how you brought that to your work. I think the Fidelity thing is a fruit of the way that you've led yourself and led others. So there's definitely some stuff to dig into here. I know maybe we can start with The Miracle of Right Thought. Because I know that book was really instrumental for you. Can you, first of all, what is that book and why was it instrumental for you?
That book is written by Orson Swett Marden. And that book is, Orson Swett Marden is really the founder of what we know as the motivation world, right? As the coaching world, as the,
right. Good point.
The Tony Robbins, the Zig Ziglar, right? Orson Swett Marden was the founder of Success Magazine back in the 1800s. And so he is the founding father of self-improvement and what we know today as motivation. Wow. And so anyway, and I came across him. It was a very spiritual experience, right? It's surreal. I don't know how much detail I say on that, but just anyway, so I found him, was guided, but that book showed up in my life. It was literally an answer to a prayer.
Wow.
Literally.
Wow.
And so, yeah. So,
yeah. And what was if you thought about so you found the book, you read the book, how did that book start to shape the direction of your thoughts, your self-leadership? What was the impact on you?
Oh man, a couple things. One, he said, I'll paraphrase it, but he said that God would never allow his children to dream of things that they were incapable of achieving. That when we feel so inspired by something that that is such a dream for us that we feel incapable of achieving, a loving God would never allow his children to dream and have these aspirations of things that they were never able to achieve. But in fact, that those dreams are prophecies, revelations, and indications of what is possible in our reality if we persist in that direction of that dream. That no matter what the obstacle is that seems insurmountable, we will absolutely overcome it in the end because we were able to dream it, and therefore providence is moving with us in achieving that. And to me, when I read that, I get emotional just just saying that, because when I read that, it changed me, because what I wanted to achieve in my life, when that, in 2018, when that book came in my life, was a dream, was something that I thought I would never ever be able to accomplish.
Well, it's interesting to me because I didn't know that came to you in 2018. You've been on this, you seem to me the kind of person that's on a path of personal development. You started your company,
Yeah.
years ago, long before that book came into your life. So what was the difference between, hey, I'm Louis on a path of personal development, I've got a business, I'm an entrepreneur, and then later this book comes in and is a game changer? Like, why?
Well, yeah, that's a great question. I felt that compulsion, that same compulsion for years. However, I had hit this, this level or this peak plateau. That's it. I've hit this plateau, and what it would take to go to the next level to me was really scary, was really stepping out of my comfort zone. And I would have to believe something completely, I would have to believe about myself more powerfully and more convincingly. And although I felt it locally, right, like in my office, I didn't feel it outside of my office or outside of my company as much as I felt it in it. And so I kept having this yearning of, I need to step out. I need to do stuff on social media, or I need to invite myself to public speaking engagements. And I need to start doing these things to get my voice heard. And I just thought, I do not want to be turned down. I do, like, even doing it for free. Like, I don't want to experience that pain of rejection.
Right.
And it just, every day I drive into work and my stomach would feel sick because I would think, this is another day I'm not doing it. This is another day I'm not living how I should be living. And that's why I got to such a point, and it was so painful for me. I would feel anxiety, like I would feel it in my chest.
Wow.
And I would come home, and even over the weekends, and my wife's like, you should be relaxed. I'm like, I can't, because I'm not doing something that I should be doing. So that's what changed. That's what made me actually pray and just say, God, if I'm supposed to really do this, give me the source of all motivation. What is it what is the source of all motivation? Give me what I know I'm supposed to do. I just need a sign. I just need, just show me something, because I will do it.
Wow.
Just give me a sign. And don't tell me it's the Bible. Don't tell me, this book or that, Bible's the book or whatever.
Right.
And I just thought, give me the source of all motivation. I want to know, like, where Zig Ziglar got his start. I want to know, give me that book, whatever that book is, give me that and I'll do it.
Wow.
And a week later, that book showed up in my life.
Literally, like, you had told me that Zig Ziglar, like, that book was a big deal for Zig.
Yeah, this author, the actual book was Pushing to the Front, right? That was the actual book, but it was that author that he read as a kid, and that's what inspired him to do what he was supposed to. And I had no idea that had happened. Wow. Didn't know. But when I found that out a couple weeks later, I told my wife, I actually got what I asked for. She's like, well, you better go do it. It's awful.
Right. That's so amazing. So then I love that story, how you came to the book. So then you got the book, you read the book. What did you start to notice was shifting about your belief about yourself, that kind of stuff, your vision?
Something in that book also that he said, that Orson Martin said, that he said, it's your birthright. And there's something about, when I took that phrase literally, that it is a birthright, meaning it's not revoked from you. Right. And I think of like an heir to the king, right? Sure. An heir to the kingdom. Well, when the king dies, the son becomes the king. It's not a question. There's no, it's not like on the movie Black Panther, where they're going to fight for it, right?
Right.
It's just, you're the king, you're there, that's it.
Right.
And taking that belief, that thought, that aspiration that I hope to achieve, that I have a birthright to it, gave me confidence to say things, do things that I never would have said or done. And by saying and doing and acting in those moments, gave me an experience that I never would have had. And it gave me realizations about my ability, or what I was really desiring to do, that I never thought that I could that I would ever do or ever thought I was capable of actually doing. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
So
Right.
just kind of like putting on the ring, like you're the Pharaoh, and you put the ring on, you're like, as you know, as per the Pharaoh, right? You know, the Pharaoh, you're that. So that I just felt like I'm putting that on, and I am that. And honestly, I would have this phrase. I was saying this last night in the breath work that I do to the class. I was saying this last night to them, that I would say, there's nothing I can't say, do, or know about this person because I'm so intentional to help them in this moment.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just a mantra that came from that belief.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So,
What other what kind mantras, actions? I'm curious, like how did it express itself? Like, how did you stay present to this thought now that this thought of birthright, this, because there's a conditioning over time where there's to own it, to assimilate it, for it to be true for you all the time and not just a thought you had one time, then you sort of forgot about it. How did you integrate that into who you are? Was it mantras? Was it breath work? Was it?
Yeah, well, mantras that I was in a situation where I could be like a coach without having to have clients, because I own a company and then people come to me for problems.
Right.
And then a lot of times they would come to me, most times they'd come to me with, they'd have a problem at work, but what the real problem was the problem at home.
Mm-hmm.
With their son or daughter or spouse,
right.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, they would come to me, ask, and we would start this dialogue. And I really wanted them to figure this out because it was important for me, because this was what was holding them back from their work.
Right.
They're distracted about their kid or whatever. And as they would talk, I would hold that mantra in my head. I would just say, and I would check in with myself and kind of, and think, do I really want to help this person? I'm like, yeah, I really do. I like them. I mean, let's be honest. You don't like all your employees, right? Like, like some you like more than others, right? And,
sure, yeah.
I'm just saying some you become really good friends with, and some you don't, right? Not that, but. And I would sit there and just think, man, I really wish I could help her. And then as they were talking or whatever, I would hold that mantra in my mind that there's nothing that I can't know. Well, I would say it different ways. There's nothing that God won't tell me about this person. And there's nothing I can't know, say, or do in this moment to help them, because I so badly want to help them. And nobody in this moment wants to help them more than I do. And I am willing to say anything, do anything, be anything in this moment to help this person.
Wow.
And I think the part of that too was believing that, then really acting on it, which is risky.
Right. Yeah. To say, like, I hear riskiness in the saying of things, because I see things a lot of times and I'm terrified to say them. Like, I probably see more than people know that I see. Like, I'll have a thought. I'll be like, you should say this to the person, or it comes through and then I don't, because I'm like, dude, that's pretty aggressive, or that's pretty rude, or that's pretty arrogant to think that you're, I mean, whatever. Like, this is the chatter that happens,
Yeah. Here, I'll just say one example. I remember this lady comes into my office. She sits down and she is emotional. And she says, my marriage is terrible because I work here, because I'm working so long. I'm working so many hours. Right. And she goes on this rant. She starts to go on this rant, but she's like, ever since I started working here, I've worked so many hours. My marriage sucks. And this place makes my marriage suck, and all this stuff. And I grab a pen like this. I take this pen and I just throw it at her. Not hard, but I just kind of like, just lob it.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And she catches it and she's like, why did you do that? And I said, and then here's the other risk. And then I just said, I had to interrupt your pattern. I said, and you know that your marriage sucked before you started here. It's impossible that by being here a couple months, your marriage sucks at the level that you say it does right now. That's years of action.
Wow.
That has accumulated over time. And now, because you're working more, it's brought it to a head. but it is not the problem. And if you think this is the problem, you're never going to solve it. And I don't want you to think it's the problem. And I'm not trying to say it to offload a responsibility. I'm saying it because it's the truth. The truth is, it's impossible that your marriage is that bad in 3 months. That's impossible.
Yeah.
And she just cried. And to this day, she doesn't work for me anymore because she took a different career. And to this day, when I just a couple months ago, 8 months ago or so, I bumped into her or something, or I was on Facebook, and she says, "Do you remember the time that you threw that pen at me?" I'm like, "Yeah, I do."
Oh man, there's two things I hear in that I want to distinguish in the conversation. One is the self-leadership of hearing things, of knowing things, of having messages for people, and honoring it as like I think coaches, especially life coaches, there's lots of empathy, lots of intuition. Life coaches are more receptive than most, to me. And but we're also, the flip side of that is we're also very safe and kind, and in that empathy, we don't want to hurt people. So there's a lot of the industry will do a lot of asking questions for people to get there on their own. And I think so we got self-leadership and we've got leading of others. And I think the combination is, one, in self-leadership, listening for what comes through, and then two, leading others, being courageous enough to say the thing you received versus trying to, walk around it with a bunch of questions. Like, I think what people need right now is some leadership. It's okay to ask questions and have them self-discover something for themselves. But on the flip side of that, there's a time to challenge the limiting beliefs that they are using to excuse them showing up to life. And I really feel like as life coaches, we can't just be in the coaching. We have to be in the leading mindset too, which is like, let me throw a pen at you and challenge the way you're thinking. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Talk to me about breath work a little bit, because I know I think that has become a tool, not just for you, but for those that you lead through breath work, a tool for them to be open and receive messages and things.
Yeah.
I guess let's start with what is breath work, in case that people don't know.
Breath work is the intentional focus of breathing in a pattern that, and there's various patterns that create different outcomes, but breathwork is the intentional breathing of a pattern to obtain a certain outcome or a physical or emotional state to shift it, right?
And is it different? Would you say it's different than meditation? And if so, how?
It is. Well, yeah. I mean, yes and no. Breathwork leads to meditation, but meditation doesn't always. I would say, and if you're good at meditating, then that would also lead to breathing differently. But the breathwork is where meditation may lead to a certain breathing pattern. Breathwork is really just the focus of a certain type of breathing, right? A certain style of breathing, right, to get an outcome.
I found, like, when I went through, I've done breath work with you twice, once virtually and once in person. And my experience was that it was physical first, whereas I think meditation is typically mental or spiritual first.
That's right.
The breath work I did with you was, the focus was very much on the pattern of breathing. And then it led to the other altered states, the spiritual states, the connections. Right.
Yeah. I mean, every emotional state has a specific breathing pattern. So if you're in a certain state, let's say it's, negative or just not becoming, right? It's a state of some type of, negative state or apathy or whatever. If you just change your breathing, it will override your emotional state.
Right. Huh. Yeah,
right?
that's great.
So Yeah. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, actually a couple of months ago, I did a practice with 20 some people, and I had them take deep breaths, and then to get in a very, a very powerful state of gratitude. And I said, on a 1 to 10, I want you to be at a 10.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to play music and just breathe however you need to breathe. But I want you to be in the thought. And I gave them prompts like, think of a coincidence that you can be grateful for, or think of, and I said, once everybody's at a 10, just raise your hand when you feel like you're at a very high level, like you're at the highest you've been in a long time. Let's just call that a 10. Just raise your hand. So I did this until everybody raised their hand. And I had told them previously, I said, once we get to a level 10, then what I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you hold your breath for 45 seconds. And before I did this, I asked them, say, everybody feel like they're capable of holding their breath for 45 seconds? They're like, yes, I can totally. I'm like, yeah, 45 seconds, should be able to do that easy. And anyway, so we get into this emotional, state of gratitude. And then I said, okay, now hold your breath. Starting on your next breath, hold it for 45 seconds. Go. And after about 11 seconds, I think it was like right at 11, somebody just gasped and went, and then by 25 seconds, 80% of the people there couldn't hold their breath anymore. And I said, why couldn't you hold your breath? Because you were in the state of gratitude, and the state of gratitude has a breathing pattern. You should be able to hold your breath for at least 30 seconds, and 80% of you have stopped after 25. Wow. Their minds were blown. I'm like, so when I go back to saying that an emotional state is just a breathing pattern,
right?
I'm like, we just proved it. And then I said, now let's hold your breath and try to be grateful. And they all stopped. They're like, forget it, I can't even do it. Well, because part of being grateful is breathing.
Yeah, right.
Has that pattern.
Wow.
But if I said, hold your breath and be fearful, you could do it. If I said, hold your breath and be mad, hold your breath and be mad, be angry, you're like, you're holding your breath. You could totally do that. But most of the states that you want have you're breathing deeply.
Wow. I mean, I have a lot of questions now that are flooding in. One is, how do you do it for yourself? So like, if I wasn't at your breathwork workshop, because I could think like for life coaches, leading their own life, leading their change in the world, being courageous enough to go beyond where they've been, past their plateau, there's something available in how they breathe. Like the breathing pattern of growth, the breathing pattern of leadership is different than the breathing pattern of fear. How does Louis do breath work for himself?
A couple ways. I've done it where I just, like this morning, I actually did it just all by myself, woke up and put my, earbuds on and lay down and pulled my breath like I teach this one practice of rebirthing. So I do that. That's also easy for me to get out of because I hold that class every week, and then it's easy not to do.
Right.
But so then I have people who I say, will you be with me? I'm like, you don't have to do anything. I just want you to be there when I pull my breath. So then I know if I'm making them come, it's kind of like, it's an accountability partner. If you're both getting up at 5 a.m., you're going to run. If you made me get up at 5 a.m., I'm calling until you answer your phone, pick up, we're going, Yeah. And so I kind of do that every week. Like I have a practice set up on Friday that I'm going to have just someone sit with me while I do it, because that will ensure that I do it.
Right. Got it. And do you have a certain time frame that you do that for 10 minutes, 20 minutes?
I try to do it I try to set aside 45 minutes.
Okay.
I mean, I'll set aside an hour, but by the time I, sit down or lay down and do it, I'm probably in it for 45 minutes, where I will actively pull my breath in the style that I do for about 20 minutes, 25.
Right.
And then I'm in that meditative state for another 15 minutes or so. So, I mean, there's 25 and 15, that's 40, something like that.
Do you have an alarm that pulls you out of it when you're like, how do you know?
Well, typically, like if I have somebody there with me, I just tell them at 25 minutes, just put your hand on my shoulder or or whisper at the top of my head or something like that. But what I did when nobody's there, what I do is the playlist, I set up the playlist for music to where I'll set 2 songs that are similar to each other.
Yep.
When it starts off, it sounds like there's angels singing or something. It's like high pitched. And then the next song goes deep, like it starts off. And so then I know, this one song, I know that when it plays, I know that means I've been pulling my breath for 30 minutes.
Got it. Right.
So I kind of just pull my breath until I hear that one song, because it's not like the other 3 that played before it.
Right.
But which is good. So yeah.
Got it. And then do you leave yourself do you go into your breath work with an intention, like in this breath work, I want to accomplish something, or do you just let
sometimes I do. And sometimes I do. Yeah. Sometimes I go in thinking, why, if I was doing this, why am I doing this?
Right.
What is it? I was going to buy a cabin. The cabin you went to, did you go? I don't know.
I haven't been there. No, but we've talked a lot about it.
Yeah. So like when I was going to buy that, I did a breath work thinking, is this going to be okay that I do this? I just want to be clear, because it helps you to really clear out, right? It's
right.
Get very clear.
And how does that clarity come to you? Like with the cabin, like, did you finish your breath work and it was just a knowing, like an inner knowing, like this is it?
Yeah. Or I'll have an experience through the breath work. Just for example, there were things that would need to be done on it. And it would require, there was a lot of work, not necessarily in the cabin, but to hold the breath work there and all this stuff and some physical work. And when I did the breath work, I saw it, and then I saw people asking for help, asking how to help.
Right.
How to help you do it.
Huh. Right.
And I felt
you saw this
in that.
In your mind's eye, you saw this, or you saw this people actually coming up to you saying,
I just saw it in my, I saw people, I saw that for example, there was something that needs to be done on the outside, that because water needs to go another way or whatever. And it's like you have a dream, and I saw somebody come up and say, hey, I can do that. I do this for a living. I do landscape. I can help you with this.
Wow.
And so I saw people just volunteering because of what they experienced at the breathwork. They would volunteer to and want to input their work and making it a better place. And I saw that, and it gave me a lot of comfort to that practice. And I finished, and I thought, I'm buying this, done.
Wow.
I know that's going to happen. That was real. And it has happened. So it was kind of cool, right?
Right. It's been really cool to hear all the ways that stuff has come to aid and support the creation of it. Yeah. I think it's so profound to me, because at the core of my work is helping people grow their groundswells in the world. Like every person who wants to impact the world has a groundswell to create. But then what stands in the way of that groundswell happening is all of the chatter, all the mental fear, all the stuff that comes, and our ability to get present to and see with our mind's eye, or see with your soul, see with your heart, however you want to say it, like to see and confirm, though, this can't be wrong. Like this is I saw it. Even if it hasn't manifested yet, I saw it. And sometimes that's the thing. It's the miracle of right thought. It's the miracle that there's a thought that it is your birthright, that this is going to happen. That is the thing that gives you the courage to continue.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just a lot of people who want to make a difference right now that aren't continuing. They're stopped in their fear.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And I think what I found is that breath work created the fertile soil for that thought to continue to grow, because it cleared out the crap.
Right. Yeah, sure.
Every time, even it got to a point where my wife will say, you haven't done your practice, have you? I'm like, no, go do it. Just because you get so much noise in your head.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, that's good.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So, and I think that something that I found that was just fortunate for me is that what I wanted to start my groundswell was this breath work.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had weeks where 2 people showed up. 1 person showed up.
Mm-hmm.
However, but because the very act of what I was doing did clear my mind.
Right.
Now because my mind would be totally noisy before. And I remember thinking, really, I'm doing all of this for 2 people. This is unbelievable.
All right.
You know, come on.
Uh-huh.
And so, but doing it, it's the very practice of it would clear my mind.
Right.
And after it was done, I would think, man, even if it was just these 2 people, it doesn't matter. Their lives were changed today.
Right.
It's awesome, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And how, by the way, how many have been through your breath work now over the years?
Man, I don't know.
A couple hundred, hundreds?
Well, I would almost say, yeah, I'd probably say 1,000, like
Yeah.
to this point, like 1,500 probably.
Wow.
Of various people, right? Like
Sure.
that have come and gone, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so cool.
Yeah.
It's so cool. There's something about finding your practice, like whatever that is, like as a coach, like the thing that works for you. Like I know for me, showing up and posting on Facebook is the platform I tend to post on. But I when I post, it's always from what is life teaching me in the moment. And that's become a spiritual practice for me. It's a thing where one, I feel I'm owning my story, I'm owning my life. And it's in a way, it clears out the junk. Like you're saying, breathwork clears it out for you. I'm like, if I throw myself under the bus and tell you where I failed and got it wrong and what I learned in it, it clears out the junk of me being worried if you're going to judge me or not. Cause I just judged myself, or you can't judge me because I just put it all out on social media for the world to see. And it clears out the junk for me to just keep going. So I no longer have this chatter of like, what if people judge you? Cause I'm putting it out for the world to see. But I think it's important that coaches have a practice that clears all that clutter out, because that's that clutter's the stuff that's going to stop you from your groundswell.
Yeah, it's hard. And you know, I'm just thinking back through this. There's a couple of things that I did that were very helpful in getting through it.
Yeah.
One is that in moments where I felt fearful of getting people there, or at then I would there were times where I'd say, tonight is free, so whoever comes, it's free. And then I would text out to people, hey, the breathwork I'm doing tonight, by the way, is free if you want to come tonight, like come as my guest. And that would bring people there. And then it gave me comfort that at least I know maybe they're not able to pay, but they're willing to experience it.
Right.
Like it took that noise out of my head.
Yeah.
And then there were times that, and again, I'm just thinking through these things, but then there were times where I might be meeting with somebody or talking to somebody, and I would say, hey, I'm doing this breathwork on Monday night. Come for free. I just want you to come. Well, what is it? Can't even explain it.
Right.
Like it's unexplainable. You just got to show up. Right. And so
why, for the ones that did show up, why did they show up? Because you didn't have an explanation and they still showed up. Why did they show up?
They showed up because I just said, I would just tell them that, like, it's literally something. I promise when you come and do it, I'm going to ask you afterwards, now, how would you explain to your friend to come? And I said, I promise you're going to say, it's unexplainable.
Right.
I said, just trust, just try it.
So I think that's where I'm after. Like they came because they trusted you.
Yeah.
And maybe it was some curiosity in it. Like, oh, well, I trust Louis. And if he says it's going to be that impactful, then I'll go. Like,
yeah. I'm just thinking if I was a life coach, or if I was starting a coaching practice,
right.
If I had a friend that was going through something, I would say, hey, look, I don't want to be your coach unless you absolutely wanted me to. I would love to role play your problem with you as if I was your coach. Could we do that? I would love it.
Yeah. Right,
and then give, as opposed to them thinking, oh, because in their head, they're going to think, what are you trying to, you're trying to get my money or whatever. You're trying to make me a client. Come on, you're with buddies. What do you really know? You're in, whatever.
Yeah.
But just saying, hey, I would never want you to be, I would never want you to be a client. I would love though to practice on you.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And I think too, the point of like, sometimes as life coaches, depending on what modalities you use, what kind of practice you have, explaining to people what you do, it doesn't even help, because you're engaging their intellectual mind about X's and O's, about strategies and tactics of things. And that's not even the point. Like, it's not even about that.
Yeah. So you reminded me of something that I would say to them. They would say, well, what is it?
Mm-hmm.
What is it? I said, it's unexplainable. And then I would say, if they knew me, I would say, let me ask you this. Do you think I've changed in the last 2 years? Mm-hmm. And they would say 100%. Mm-hmm. What if I told you what caused that change was this practice?
Wow.
Then I'll be there.
Yeah, that's great.
Or I would try to associate with somebody they knew. Do you know this person? Ask them if it didn't radically change them one time.
Right.
They go, okay, I'm gonna go ask them. They say, oh my gosh, I got the text back. You got to go.
Right. Dude, that's what's so great about that is when you have a practice that you use as a coach or as the person, there's a confidence and a conviction about it that isn't there when you're just trying to coach people from questions or concepts or things you read in a book, or like when you assimilate the practice in your own life, you're like, look, I can speak to this because it is the thing that made the difference for me. Yeah.
And I think you have to love it in and of itself, regardless of what it becomes or yields from you or whatever.
Right.
You just have to love. You have to love it for what it is. Mm-hmm. Kind of like your kids, your kids, like you're not going to change your kids if you don't love them, then any change you want in them or you hope they will never make it, right? Like until you're going to just accept it for what. Does that make sense? Like once I just accepted, certain things, like my kid is never going to be like, I wanted him to get up there and be more, I don't know, just be more bold because he could be. And he just would never do it. I'm like, just do it, just get up there and say these things. And so I'd have to bet him money that he wouldn't do it. Anyway, but, until you just accept them for who they are, you accept it and just say, I love this practice. I love coaching, even if I only coach one person a week, even if I can't make a living from it now, I love it because the minute you don't, then you'll never do it to the level you'll need to make it to what you want it to be.
Right. Yeah. So good.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because my own wife didn't like it. I would say, do you want to do it? She's like, nah, I don't like it. And then sometimes it would bug me that something I really loved, she would say, nah, I don't want to go. I don't want to do it.
Right.
And I almost felt like I felt like Jack and the Beanstalk, right? It's like, do you think these are magic? Do you think these beans are worth, like, you think this is stupid? She's like, no, I just don't like it. I'm like, come on, you got to come.
Right.
I don't like it. And so that was hard for me. And it caused me to question it at times because I thought, if she doesn't love it like I love it, how will I ever be able to embrace it like I need to? Because I'll always be looking back, wondering if she's mad at me because I'm spending time doing this.
Wow. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I had a real conversation with her one day and just said, I need you to love it. You don't have to like it, but I need you to love it and for what it does for people. I want you to really, and she said, I did it once. I said, you didn't do it. You didn't play full out. That's why you don't like it. That's why it didn't have any impact for you. I just need you to play full out and do it 3 times. After 3 times, full out, no judgment, just as if you loved it, then I'll let you go. But you have to,
Did she do it?
And I gave her a little bit of, and I said to her, I said, what happens if we're there and you're there and they say, and all of this, and they're like, and they ask you, well, Viv, do you love it? And you say, no, I hate it. I've done it once and I'm never going to do it again. I said, what do you think that will do for me?
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Did she
So then
end up
one
doing
day,
it 3 times?
so she did it without me knowing. She just did it herself. And I came home and she said, I want you to know I did it. I did the breath work.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, what happened? She says, I cried so hard.
Wow.
I didn't realize I had all this anger and sadness to let go of. I had no idea. I cried. She was looking, does it look like, because it looked like she'd been crying, you know, when I came home from work. And she said, I just let go of all this stuff and I hated it. And I'm glad I did it.
Wow.
I don't know if I'll ever do it again. It works.
Wow.
I said, that's all I want. I just want you to know you don't have to love it. I just don't want you to think that it doesn't work.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, so it was good. And now she comes to it and helps do it and helps facilitate it and like greets people and they love her being there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
I love that from just again, the leadership aspect of something. When you see something that has made an impact in your life and you want to bring it to the world, and then you have people close to you that don't get it yet. They're like, I don't get it. Or I'm not, it could cause you to doubt. It could cause you to not charge full steam ahead. Like there's all kinds of things that can get in our way of leading the change we're here to lead in the world. But, and I love one that you just kept going, but two, that you also made a request in, you know, in the space of that. Like, I think that's leading too.
yeah. Yeah. There was, you know, this was a conversation I had earlier, but prior to the breath work, it was just prior to it though, maybe a year. Because after I had found this book, then I started going in a direction and I told Viv, I said, I know that you hate it because I'm always pushing to the front. Right. Crazy. Right. Like I'm always pushing to the next thing. And it feels like I'm never just settled. And you want to be settled. I said, but I will never be satisfied with my effort if I stop. And I have to do it. And if I don't do it, I'm not going to be happy. And if I'm not going to be happy, I will take it out on you. Right. And I said to a point where I wouldn't want to leave you for it. But I know that if I'm not happy, and then because I hold back because of how you feel, right, I'm going to make you miserable. We've been married 20 at this point, like 20 some, 24 years or 23 years. It will kill us. I said, so I'm worried that if you're not, you don't have to love it, but you do have to champion me in it.
Yeah, right.
I mean, you don't have to like it, but you do have to love that it fulfills me and champion me in it. Yeah. And I'm worried that if you don't do that, then I'm going to become a person to you that is not good. And the result will be disastrous. And so I'll have to get this in line because this book showed up in my life. There's no way. Right. I have to do it.
Yeah. That's the thing about like if you want to call it a calling, or there's when there's something transcendent, something divine, something shows up in your life that it just pulls you. Like it won't leave you alone. It's like, you can try to run from it like Jonah if you want. You can try to escape it, but it won't leave you alone. And you're like, this thing just keeps showing up. And I feel like this is what my life is for.
That's right.
And at some point, like you got to go.
That's right. And in fact, that's what I said to her. I just said, I'd never, ever thought in my life that I would ever leave you to achieve something. But if I don't achieve it and I feel held back by you, I'm going to hurt you in a way that I will feel horrible for. Right. And it's just not going to work. I just need you. I'm like, I'll give you time to think about it. But we have to be on the same page. Right. It has to be.
Right. Right. Yeah. Wow. Wow. Well, maybe we can wrap with a couple thoughts. One, so if you were talking to somebody who's been a life coach for some years, they've hit a plateau, without knowing all the context around it, like what would you say to them? How do they get past that plateau? without knowing the circumstance.
Yeah. You know, I would say that they need to reconnect with their with their identity.
Mm.
They need to reconnect with who they were born to be.
Mm.
And does that person, who they were born to be, is that where they plateau? Is that where they stop? You know, if you're this, is this where you're going to stop? It might be. It might be this is it. You're supposed to just refine it where you're at. But if you feel you're at a plateau, guess what? You know that you weren't going to be there.
Right.
You would feel like you're at the high.
Right. Yeah, because you don't use the word plateau. You don't think of it in terms of
no. You're like, hey, I'm at the peak of my game. Here I
am. Right. Right.
So if you're at a plateau, you were born to be something greater.
Right.
And you may not know what the next step is, and so that's why you want to call it a plateau, or maybe that's why you want to feign that you've reached the top.
Right.
But the reconnection, that's what I love about the breath work. But the reconnection with your breath connects you with your identity.
Yeah.
And then that makes you clear, confident, and courageous to move forward.
Yeah, I love it. Louis, if people want to learn more about the kind of breath work you do or what you're up to, like, is there a place they can connect with you?
Yeah, on Meetup, I have a group on Meetup. It's Sozo, the Breath of Life.
S-O-Z-O.
Yeah, S-O-Z-O,
Mm-hmm.
the Breath of Life, and just join our group.
On Meetup, meetup.com, right? Like that Meetup?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, perfect. Louis, thanks so much for hanging out here. I always love our conversations. So good.
Thanks Chris.
For all you do.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, that's it, gang. Thanks for listening to this episode of Life Coach Labs. Before I let you go, I want to invite you to two things. One, there is a companion Facebook group to this show called Life Coach Labs. Go to Facebook and search Life Coach Labs. You can see it here on the screen. If I scroll through, this is a companion group to the show because it gives me a chance to get to know you. I want to know you as much as you listen to me and my guests. I want to know you. I want to hear about your important work. I want to support you. So please head over to Facebook and join the free Life Coach Labs Facebook group. Number two, let's jump over to the next window here. If you are looking to create recurring revenue in as little as 4 hours a week, I have documented my community model, right? How do you do community? How do you build a membership model for your coaching that incubates the people you want to serve and do it in as little as 4 hours a week? You can head over to lifecoachlabs.com/model. You can see it right here on the screen, lifecoachlabs.com/model, and learn more about how to create recurring revenue in as little as 4 hours a week. Thanks for hanging out with me in this episode. And until next time, be well.